Morning, children. I welcome you all once again for this online class. And in our class today, we are moving into a new lesson, lesson 3 of history. And the title of our lesson is Emergence of New Kingdoms in South India, later Cholas and later Pandyas. And in our last class in history, lesson 2, we studied about the emergence of new kingdoms in northern India. We studied about the Rajput kings, the emergence of Arabs, and the conquest of Muslims in India. And in today's lesson, we are going to focus upon the southern part of India. Okay, so in our lesson today, we are going to study about the origin of later Cholas and the later Pandyas. Origin means their starting point, their beginning, where the rule of the later Cholas and Pandyas started. Then we are going to study about the important rulers of both kingdoms, and then we are going to acquaint, we are going to get well versed with their administrative system, that is their local government, about their control of their internal affairs we are going to study. And then we are going to study about their social and economic cultural development, that is about the society, the lifestyle of the people, economy, that is their wealth and income, and cultural, the way of life they lived. We are going to focus about these things in our lesson. And introduction. And in today's lesson, we are going to study only about the Cholas, the later Cholas. Okay. And the Cholas became very strong and popular kings in the southern part of India, because the reason is they had a great system. They followed a great system to become popular. So, what is that system? They had a very large, elaborate state structure system. That is, they divided each and every states with some territories, and they placed some governors, and they ruled them. And also, they had a extensive irrigation system. Okay, irrigation means watering the crops, agriculture. So, because of mm, their because their capital was located in the delta region, that is the place where the river water drains into the sea. So because of enormous water source, their irrigation system was very great. And because of their great irrigation system, agriculture was very highly practiced. And because of agriculture, their revenue income became very high. And because of their high income, they built many temples. They progressed in art and architecture. They built famous temples and became very famous. Okay. And also they captured very large portions of territories. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, revival of the Chola rule. Okay, so the Chola kingdom was divided as early Cholas and later Cholas. So, who were the early Cholas? Last year we studied about the Sangam age, isn't it? In Sangam age, we studied about three strong South Indian rulers, the Cheras, Cholas, and the Pandyas. So, see here, we could see the Cholas here, isn't it? So, these Cholas are the early Cholas, and they belong to the Sangam age, that is the time period of 3rd century BC to 2nd century AD. Okay, so before Christ, they ruled the southern part of India. So, what happened to the early Cholas? During the 2nd century AD, the Chola kings became weaker. Okay, so what happened? Because of their weakness, the Calabras, they captured the southern part of India, and they ruled for 200 years. So after Cholas, after Calabras, the Pallava kings, they ruled the southern part of India. So during this time, what happened? The Cholas became minor kings. Okay, their territory, their largest territory, it was uh, pushed into a small minor territory. You remember the King Karikala Chola, who built the famous Kallanai. Okay, so this is the time period when the Cholas were very strong, and they ruled a major part of South India, and they became stronger. But after Karigala Cholan, weaker kings ruled. Okay, so because of weaker kings, they were captured and they were declined, and finally they became very small territory. Okay, and the small territory was ruled by the Cholas, and they became infamous, unnoticeable in the history. So during this time, okay, during ninth century, the Cholas, they were ruling a small part of southern part of India near Urayur. Okay, so during this time, uh, so the ancient Cholas, that is the early Cholas, their capital city was Urayur, that is near Trichy. Okay, um, so what happened when they were ruling a small part, minor region in the ninth century AD? Vijalaya, a small king in the south of the Chola dynasty, he captured Tanjavur, the nearby territory. Okay, he captured the nearby territory of Tanjavur, and he made Tanjavur as his capital. And the kings who followed Vijalaya, they started to extend their empire. Okay, they started to capture the nearby territories, and slowly the Chola dynasty started to expand, and finally they became strong and famous in the history once again. Okay, and some of the famous strong kings of the later Chola period were Rajaraja Chola I, then his son Rajendra Chola. Okay, these are the some of the important kings of the later Chola period. Okay, now we are focusing upon the decline of the Cholas. See, the kingdoms in the history, they were like waves of the sea. Sometimes they move high, and after they go low, then again they go high, then again they go low. Okay, so initially the early Cholas, they became high, and finally they were destroyed by the Calabras and they became very low. And now afterwards Vijayalaya, he built the later Chola empire. Then it was developed by Rajaraja Chola and Rajendra Chola, and finally it also came to the decline. It came down. Okay. So what is the reason why the later Cholas declined? So after Rajendra Chola, there were three successors. That is, three kings followed after Rajendra Chola. Okay, and the third king, he was very weak king. His name was Veera Rajendra, and his son Adi Rajendra, he was killed in a civil unrest. Okay, that is in local war, local dispute among his countrymen. Adi Rajendra was killed. Okay, and with the death of with his death, okay, the later Chola empire ended. Okay, so after his death, the Chalukyas, okay, actually Rajaraja Chola had one son and one daughter. Okay, so the name of the son was Rajendra Chola, and the name of the daughter was Kundavai. Okay, so Kundavai, she was married to the Chalukya prince. Okay, his name was Vimaladitya. So Vimaladitya and Kundavai had a son named Raja Narendra. So Raja Narendra was married to the daughter of Rajaraja's son Rajendra Chola. Her name was Amanga Devi. So Amanga Devi was married to Rajaraja Narendra, who was the son of Chalukya prince. So for them, they had a son named Kulotunga I. So after the death of Adi Rajendra, there was no more kings from the Chola family. So what happened? In order to save the Chola kingdom, the Chalukya prince Kulothunga I, he became the next Chola king. But during his rule, he controlled the Chola Empire, but he lost some of the territories. He lost the Ceylon and the Pandya's territory. He lost, and slowly the Pandyas became stronger, and he lost the Kanchipuram territory to the Telugu Cholas. And what happened? Slowly, the territory became smaller. And finally, in 1279, Maravarma Kulasegara Pandyan I, he defeated the last king of the Chola dynasty, Rajendra Chola III. And with the defeat of Rajendra Chola III, the total Chola rule was came to an end. Okay. Okay. Now let's move on to the next topic, administration. So how they controlled, how the administration of the Chola empire went on. Okay. So in the Chola empire, king is the head of the total organization. He is the supreme. So his law is the ultimate. Okay. So whatever the king orders, it is the final. Okay. Um, he is called as Chakravarti. Okay. The king is nicknamed as Chakravarti. So all the most of the important orders given by the king, they were copied by the um, courtiers in the palm leaves or even on the temple walls. They were copied. Okay, by the officials of the court. Okay, and the eldest son of king was known as Yuvaraja, and he is the next king uh, after the king. He will be succeeded by his eldest son, who is called as Yuvaraja. So the eldest son, in order to get touch with the politics when he was young, he will be appointed as the governor in one of the provinces, one of the territories of the Chola kingdom. So when they become governor, they will learn all the political mm, things in the empire. Okay, and the whole empire was divided into provinces or mandalams. So the Chola empire was divided into provinces or mandalams, and the provinces were further divided into nadus, and nadus were again divided into kurams. Kurams are the groups of several villages, and finally kurams were divided into village or gramam. So village is the least division. Village is the least division in the empire, and the mandalams or provinces are the highest division in the Chola empire. Okay, so by dividing the total empire into smaller groups, they followed a great administrative system. Okay, the next topic is local governance. Okay, how was the control? How was the management of local government went on? Okay, so the local administration, it was divided into several groups. Okay, so these groups were called as Urar, Sabayar, Nagaratar, Natar. Okay, so who are the Urars? Ur means it is a village. Okay, village where agriculture is practiced. So in Ur, okay, in Ur there will be one representative. The whole community, there will be a representative. So that representative is called Urar. Okay, and in Sabayar, Sabayar are they are the Brahmins. Okay, they are the Brahmins. They carried out the financial affairs, administrative affairs, and judicial functions. Judicial means the court system. So these three things were carried out by the Sabayar. That is the uh, Brahmins. Okay, so the representative of the Sabayar are the Brahmins. Okay, then the third system, Nagaratar. Nagaratars are the traders. Okay, the traders. Traders means the people who engage in trade system. So among the traders there will be one representative who is called Nagaratar. Okay, and then the fourth one is Natar. Okay, Natar is the um, assembly. It is the Natar is a representative of the Nadu. Nadu is the second level, isn't it? Second level next to the province, Mandalam. After Mandalam, it is further divided into Nadus. So the Nadu, in Nadu, they have a representative called as Natar. So the local bodies are divided into these type of four divisions, and with these four divisions all the important functions were done. Okay, like how we have today, how our system we have, likewise they divided in ancient times. So how we have today, we have corporation, isn't it? We have municipalities, we have town panchayat, we have village panchayat. Okay, so likewise they had Urar, Sabayar, Nagaratar and Natar system during the later Chola period. Okay, so what is the function of these government bodies? They took care of the road system, irrigation system, temple works, garden works, and collecting the revenues, and also conducting the festivals. So these are the responsibilities taken by the local government system. Okay, next is Uttaramerur inscriptions. So Uttaramerur is it is a Brahmadeya village, that is the Chola king gifted it to the Brahmins. The whole village was gifted to the Brahmins by the king. So it is called Uttaramerur, which is in Kanchipuram district. It is called a Brahmadeya village. So in this village we have a temple. So in the temple wall we have inscriptions. So in the inscriptions we could able to see the election system followed in the later Chola period. Okay, it is called Kudavolai Murai. Okay, you could have studied about Kudavolai Murai in Tamil. Okay, so 30 representative, the Sabha was divided into 30 wards. Like how we have ward today, likewise in olden days also they had wards. So totally there were 30 wards, and one representative for each ward. Totally 30 representatives were elected. Okay, how they were elected? By Kudavolai Murai. Kudavolai Murai means in a huge pot they will write the names of the representative, and they put the names inside the pot, and the leader of the village, he will call one small boy or girl and ask them to pick one name from the pot, and whatever name he picks up, they become the ward members. Okay, and there is eligibility to become the ward member. Okay, what is the eligibility? The uh, age of the candidate must be from 35 to 70 years, and they should be well knowledge with Vedic verses and Vedic religion, and also they should be landowners, and they should have own house. Okay, so in later Chola period they practiced election system, which was evidence from the Uttarameru inscriptions. Okay, okay. Uh, let's move on to the next topic, revenue. Revenue means what? Income. So what was the main income source for the later Chola period? Okay, so the main income for the Cholas were through uh, from the land. Okay, land. So the land tax was known as, okay, I left one topic. Okay, so this is not this is the information here is not um, from revenue, so don't look at these points, but listen to me, I'll explain it. Okay, so what is the revenue system? It is the income for the Chola empire. So from where they get money? So the first important source from where the Cholas get income is from land tax. Okay, land tax, which is called Kani Kadan. So from Kani Kadan, they get income. So what is Kani Kadan? So they will take survey of all the land which produce crops. Okay, all the lands which produce crops, they take um, survey. Okay, and after taking survey, then they will take one third. So whatever grows in the land in the whole empire, it one third portion of the total produce of the crops, they will be taken over by the king. Okay, see for example, if the whole Chola kingdom through agriculture they produce 30 bags of paddy. Okay, 30 bags of paddy. That means 10 bags of paddy will go to the king. Okay, king will take 10 bags. Only 20 bags of paddy will be shared by other people. Understood? So, this is the main income for the Chola king. That is the land tax. And addition to the land tax, they also had the profession tax and tolls. Profession tax means what? So yeah, people working in higher ranks, they have to pay tax. Okay, tolls means we have toll system today, isn't it? If anybody passes through one territory, okay, from one territory to another territory through vehicles, okay, they have to pay tax to the government. So these are the some of the income through which the Chola Empire functioned. Okay. So the next topic is social structure based on land relations. So the points here in the display, they belong to the social structure based on land relations. Okay. So how the land was distributed during the later Chola period. Okay. So the lands gifted to the Brahmins, they were called Devadana villages. Okay. So the lands with temples. Okay, the king donate lands to the Brahmins. Okay, along with the temples. So those places are called Devadana villages. We studied about Uttaramerur inscriptions, isn't it? So in Uttaramerur there are temples. So it is in Kanchipuram district. So this Uttaramerur was gifted to the Brahmins by the king. So what these villages are called? Devadana villages. Not only for Hindus, the lands were even donated to the Jains. So the lands given to the Jains were called Palli Chandam. Okay, Palli Chandam. And also there were divisions among the people. Okay, the people who are landlords, they were called Vellalas. So the landlords, they own the land, agricultural land. Okay, and also the Brahmins also own the land gifted by the king. Okay, so the land owned by the Vellalar and Brahmins, these lands were cultivated by uh, a group of people. They are called Ulkudi. Okay, Ulkudi is the group of people who cultivate the land which belong to the Vellalas and Brahmins. So the Ulkudi people, they do not own any land. So the system is not like today. In today, anybody can buy. Whoever have money can buy any land, isn't it? People belong to any community. You can buy land if you have money. But in Chola period, it is not like that. Only Vellalas and Brahmins can own any land. Okay, and Ulkudi people, they can work in the land. They can cultivate the land, practice agriculture. So produce the produce which were cultivated from the land, they are called Melvaram and Kilvaram. Melvaram is the major portion of the harvest. It is taken by the Brahmins and the Vellalas because they were the landowners. So they take the majority of the cultivated harvested crops. Okay, and Keelvaram, Keelvaram is given to the other people, that is the Ulkudi, the people who cultivated the crops, and below the Ulkudi, there were another group. They were called Adimai and Panisai Makkal. Adimaigal are called slaves. Panisai Makkal are laborers. So the Keelvaram, the lowest share, it was divided by the Adimaigal, Panisai Makkal and the Ulkudi people. Okay, so this is the system of um, social structure practiced during the later Chola period. And there is another group called intermediate group. They were the army people and traders. So army people and traders, they comes in between the Vellalas and Ulkudi. They were intermediate group. That is, they were in between. They were not the landlords, but they were not also the slaves. They were in between groups. Understood? So this is the social structure based on land relations. The next topic is irrigation. Irrigation means watering the farmland. Okay, so the Cholas, later Cholas were very much gave importance to the irrigation system, and because their capital is located in the delta region where more water, Kaveri water drains into the sea, they gave more importance to the irrigation system. So one of the largest embankment, it is nearly 16 mile long, that is nearly 25 kilometers long, which was built by Rajendra Chola in Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Okay, what is embankment? Look at the picture here. That See, water is in the low region, and the high place land place which is blocking the water to uh, which not to drain away. It stops the water not from draining away. So uh, this land region which covers the water system, they are called embankment. Okay, so this embankment was built by Rajendra Chola to store the water system. Okay, so it was nearly 25 kilometers long, which is very long during that period. Okay, and also they practiced a system called Vadi Vaikal system. That is, um in order to save the water system, in order to use the water in proper manner, they followed Vadi Vaikal system. Vadi means drainage channel. Okay, Vaikal means supply channel. Okay, so the water which is stored, it has to be properly distributed to the uh, agriculture field. Okay, so in order to supply the stored water properly into the agriculture field, they followed this Vadi Vaikal system. Vadi means drainage, that is the enormous water, flood water will be uh, uh, it be drained into the sea by the Vadi drainage system. Okay, and Vaikal is the supply system where the water will be passed into the agricultural field. Okay, so during flood time, the water will be, the Vadi drainage water will be opened, and all the enormous water will flow into the sea water. Okay, and if you want to supply the water to the uh, agricultural field, they open the supply channel Vaikal. Okay, and they also had Ur Vaikal and Nadu Vaikal. So Ur Vaikal is the common supply channel for the people in Ur, and Nadu is the common water supply for the Nadu region. Okay, the next one is religion. Okay, the later Cholas were ardent Saivites. Ardent means they were strong believers of Saivism, that is, followers of Lord Shiva. Okay, and they, during the later Chola period, they have sung many hymns in the praise of the deeds of Lord Shiva, and all the hymns sung by the Nayanmars. Okay, they were copied together by the author named Nambi Andar Nambi. Okay, and the group of the hymns sing by the Nayanmars are called Thirumarai. Okay, Thirumarai. Okay, so the next topic is temples. Okay, so during uh, later Chola period, temples became more prominent. Even today, the temple built Brihadiswara temple, which was built by Rajaraja Chola I, located in Tanjavur, it is very prominent even today. Okay, the Vimana, which is at the top of the temple, it was many tons high weight. Okay, and it was very much famous. In book page number 125, you could able to see the Brihadiswara temple in the left picture in Tanjavur. And moreover, his son Rajendra Chola, he built another famous temple in Gangaikonda Cholapuram, okay, which is located near Ariyalur district. Okay, Ariyalur district. Okay, so this temple also one of the famous temples in history of India. Okay, so all these temples they carry great paintings and sculptures, idols, which are of high uh, quality. Okay, and also temples are not only places of worship, they also educational centers. Okay, the lands owned by the temples, okay, they they promoted the land belong to the temples to education system. Okay, and also they promoted education through devotion. Okay, devotion of dance, music and drama. Okay, dance related to God, music related to worship, and also dramas about gods. Okay, so they promoted these types of um, practices also. Okay, in Tamil we call iyal isai nadagam. Okay, so these are the three important um, practices which promoted the temples. Okay, and the people, the staffs belonging to the worship temples, uh, they were dancing girls, musicians, singers. Okay, and musical players and priests, they were given separate houses and they were given also lands. Okay, the next topic is Cholas as patrons of learning. Okay, so the later Cholas, they were also patrons, that is, they were um, eager in learning also. Okay, and Rajendra Chola, he established a Vedic college in a place called Ennairam, which is in Viluppuram district today. Okay, and it was a huge college in which nearly 340 students studied Vedas, grammar, Upanishads. Okay, and there were 14 teachers teaching the college. Okay, and moreover, two two more colleges like the Vedic colleges at Ennairam, they were founded at Tirubhuvanai and Tirumukkudal. Tirubhuvanai is in today's Puducherry, which was built in 1048 AD, and Tirumukkudal is in present day Chengalpattu, which was built in 1067 AD. And these two colleges also became prominent like the Vedic college built at Ennairam. Okay, and two important literary works belong to the Chola period. They were Periya Puranam and Kamba Ramayanam. Ramayanam written by Kambar. Okay, and the final topic is trade. Okay, so the trade flourished during the Chola period. Okay, the Cholas were the um, empire. They made a great trade during their period. Okay, and the trade was carried out by guild system. Guild means groups. Okay, different groups, and there were two important groups. They were called Anju Vannathar and Mani Vannathar, Mani Gramathar. Okay, Anju Vannathar are the foreign traders. Okay, they were foreign traders which contains West Asians, Arabians, Jewish people, Christians and Muslims. Okay, and Mani Gramathar belongs to the internal trade. Okay, local trade is called Mani Vannathar, Mani Gramathar. Okay, and foreign trade is called Anju Vannathar. Okay, and during during sometimes what happened, the Mani Vanathar Anjuvannathar and Manigramathar, they merged, they started to combine to form another group called I Natruvar. I Natruvar. Okay. So the headquarters of I Natruvar is located in Ayovoli, which is in present days Karnataka. Okay. And also in trade, okay, the Cholas, later Cholas, they imported many um important things from the other countries, from southeastern countries, okay, and some of the important imports done by the later Cholas were elephant tusks, okay, so the horns of the elephants, coral. You all know what is coral, isn't it? It is in the sea water. Transparent glasses, betel nuts, cardamom, and opaque glasses. Opaque glasses means glasses through which sunlight never passes. Okay, so these are the important imports made by the later Cholas. And what was the exports done by them? They exported sandalwoods, ebony. Ebony is some kind of tree. Condiments. Condiments means masala materials like the pepper, chilies. Okay, these are the condiments. And precious gems, pepper, oil, paddy, grains, and salt. These are some of the things exported to the other countries. Okay, children, these are some of the informations regarding the later Chola period. So, with this, our portion regarding the later Cholas completed. In the next class, we'll study about the uh, later Pandyas. Okay, see you all.